Welcome to another Founder Wisdom podcast. We have Elisabeth Bykoff with us today. She's a bunch of things. She's a startup founder, an advisor, an operator, an investor in business and corporate development. She's also in revenue and growth operations. Basically, a global leader. She has lived in various cities, now in Austin, Texas. And yeah, she's the founder and CEO of Boxsy right now. So it's a AI-powered end-to-end SaaS platforms. It propels startups towards scalable and profitable growth. We're gonna discuss about this one today. Ellie, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Hey, thanks for having me, Charles. Yeah, I'm French, born and raised. We were just talking about that, right, before going live, so don't hold that against me. I guess we could do that all in French and then completely confuse everybody, so we won't do that, right, today. My background, aerospace engineering and business, and then never looked back. And then from there, just 10 years in consulting, where I built the US Salesforce practice for PWC and took it from 0 to 200 million globally, and then exited myself, if that makes sense. No money to my name instead of signing my life away and being a partner. And then I jumped into, 2 feet into pre-IPO or startup world, right? So for the last 8 years, I've been doing that. And like you were mentioning, I've had all the possible hats. And the latest one is obviously founder, and decided again to jump 2 feet into this journey. So founder of Boxsy, and it's taking most of my time right now, despite some of the other hobbies or things I've been doing. It's pretty busy. That's all I'm gonna say.
And why did you make the jump from corporate to startup world? I see like almost a decade at PWC, which is enough to suck your full soul. How did you escape?
Yeah, I mean, I realized, despite having, being in the safety of a very big firm, I really enjoyed the building part of it, right? We were competing against Deloitte and Accenture, not knowing what we were doing at the beginning and just going around the country and trying to sell projects. And, around 2017, when I left, I realized I enjoyed that way more than selling and delivering projects over and over again. And so, I just quit, believe it or not. I was also a bit burned out, I'm not going to lie. And I thought, hey, where is the best? I was in San Francisco. So where's the best place to try to continue building stuff, right? Like, hey, okay, I'm in the right place. So let's go figure out if I can get into that world. And that's what I did.
And how would you advise someone to escape that realm? Because right now we're in the AI arms race. And yeah, I believe if you're not into AI or competing on that scale, you're sort of missing out. Maybe like one of our last inventions. So how should people potentially realize that? Do you need a burnout, or can you have like a glimpse of consciousness before that happens?
Yeah, I mean, most people that start in consulting don't stay 10 years, to be honest. They stay 2.5 to 5 years. And I don't know if that's going to change, now with AI, but most of my classmates had left by the time I had been there for 10 years. So it's people usually take consulting as a great starting experience, whether after an MBA or after, graduating from school. And then do that, gain the skills that are really great, thinking on your feet and always learning and all that, and then just exit into corporate or even go into startups. So I wouldn't say that my path has been, is the typical one. People did a better job than me than realizing they had to exit beforehand. I think for me, coming from France, I had this idea that I was going to do my entire career there, and then realize, maybe not. So I think you don't need to do, to have those signals like I had, right? A lot of people just enjoy the experience 2.5 to 5 years and then go into the world with that skill set that they've learned.
And why Boxsy? Why do you feel it's the right time to launch that? And do you feel there's potential for product market fit?
Yeah, at the end of 22, when I quit the last full-time job at another Series A startup, very frankly, I thought if another B2B SaaS startup was asking me to build their sales process into Salesforce or HubSpot, I was shooting myself in the head, right? There had to be a better way to do that. And ChatGPT had just come out, right? And so I thought, hey, I think it's time to use the tech. The tech is here to really figure out if we could build, originally I called it ops in a box for founders, right? Could we bring all the best practice, all the knowledge that's out there, and really guide founders through setting up and managing their operations? Because we all know that's the crap we don't want to do as founders, right? But it takes time and we have to do it. And then for the last, 2 years, obviously, since the idea came about, before I started validating it, AI has moved so fast that it's not just about guiding, it's even about orchestrating, automating, setting up, how far can you take the automation and orchestration to really help startup founders with the operations, right? All the crap we don't want to do.
Interesting. And yeah, how do you manage your time between Boxsy, your book, and everything else that you do?
Well, more recently, you just have to be pretty honest with yourself. So the book has taken a step back. I mean, it's live; everybody can go find it and buy it. But the marketing of it has taken a step back because I've been really heads on to Boxsy, and that's okay, right? The book was there; it's always going to be there, and I'll continue doing things more grassroots on it. But yeah, no, I've been mainly focused on Boxsy, to be honest, and I think that's what it's going to be for the next few months.
Yeah, and how do you drive in sales at Boxsy? I see you go to a lot of conferences. That like your favorite way of getting new leads?
Yeah, I mean, super early stage, it's founders led, right? All the BD, to be honest. So originally, having been in the ecosystem and knowing and meeting a lot of startup founders and investors, really been on the network, to your point, the events or the groups and community that I'm part of, and just talking about what we're doing and raising interest and getting some demos or just getting people to get on the platform to provide feedback. More recently, as everybody knows, founders led is great, but now with AI, it's a time and place to build the engine, right? And so now we're starting this summer to focus really on the engine and being like, okay, it's not just Elisabeth out there, but how do we start social listening, warm outreach, cold outreach? And so that's what we're doing right now, setting up the engine.
Should everyone raise, and how is that reality changing in the age of AI?
Actually, I think most of us would prefer not to raise. I think if we could avoid it, it's just a reality. And to be honest, there's a bit of a trend right now, I think, with the new generations of founders that, I don't know if you've heard it, right? Like seedstrapping, and a lot of founders do not want to raise now. I don't know if it's the late millennial or Gen X generation, but there's definitely a shift where before it was all about let's go raise ASAP. We don't want to spend our own money. But that puts a lot of pressure on a founder and the business, and we know that. And so we just talked about that at New York Tech Week with a bunch of founders early June. That we're all like, well, we would prefer not to raise if we could, right? But at the same time, you need to fuel the growth. So I think with AI, it's been interesting to see how faster you can build and how cheaper you can build, as well as how quicker you can pivot to find product market fit and start putting dollars, in your bank account versus raising. And so I think it's finding that balance, and it's going to depend on what you're building too. Obviously, if you're in health tech, FDA approval, all those stuff, you're still going to have to raise. But I think in B2B SaaS, it's definitely changing, and you have way less founder wanting to raise at least as much as it used to.
Right. And you mentioned Gen Z. Like, I've always been a libertarian myself, and I don't necessarily want someone to be on my cap table unless we share values, and they can also provide extra value than just the cash there. Why would Gen Z not be attached to that idea as much as older gens?
I mean, I think it's been pretty apparent. I mean, I don't know if you have Gen Z in the family. I have a few of them, and they're more like, hey, I'll do 9 to 5. I'll take a pay cut, but I'll have the work-life balance. And I think it's a bit along those lines of, hey, I don't want that control on my cap table, and I'm just going to do it on my own terms. I think it's also to what you just said, right? A lot of the when you fundraise, it's capital, but then the investors are not always super helpful. And then, they're looking for crazy growth terms and growth targets. And I think some of the new generation might not want to exactly build businesses that way. It might take a bit more time. It doesn't mean the business is not valuable, but I think there is that pushback on, hey, we don't want to do it the way all the previous generations have done it. And I think that translates into, corporate America, but it's translating into the startup world too. And I think that's good. Sometimes you need something like that to create a change. And so hopefully that's all for the good.
And is it work-life balance in the age of AI being you're like more AI replaceable? If you're less productive, less time at work?
No, I think it's the reverse. With AI, you're kind of expected to be even more productive, right? So that means that instead of you doing it, an AI, but you still have to set that up, right? And so you have to still spend some time setting it up, and then when that's running, it's great. So I think, to be honest, it's almost you can do more, but then there's a lot of peer pressure on doing more faster. So you kind of have to balance that.
And then at the VC level, if I'm a VC, how should I change my strategy to still be relevant and still be competitive in my field?
That's an interesting question. I think there's a lot of investors that are actually thinking about that right now. And if you think about the changes in the ecosystem, some of them are moving into a multi-asset strategy. So instead of just being a VC fund, some of them are becoming IRAs and hedge funds and adding some of the other products to actually increase returns for their LPs. I think the big difference there too is because the IPO window has been closed. I think if VCs have to hold on to their investment in some cases longer than before, and for that to really make sense, they have to be more involved into operating the business. And so I think what you're going to see a big differentiator and advantage for some of those VCs is the ones that are going to really help those companies operate. So almost closer to a hybrid PE model, if that makes sense. But I think it's going to end up being that and showing that you can bring value more than just a check, to your earlier point, Charles. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Right. And on your side, what kind of AI tech are you using for your own startups on the sales stack of things, but also on the product stack? Like, where is AI integrated?
So in terms of BD, there's we're using tool and we're building it right now. So between Apollo to Buffer for social media management, any of those things, we're kind of building this integrated stack. We're looking at tools like OG Tool for social listening, specifically for Reddit and LinkedIn, to be able to then re-engage with people that are talking about what we care about, or Boxsy or anything like that. So there's a lot of things that we're putting together. I think that's the biggest thing. There's so many tools out there. So it's how do you actually put it together so it makes sense and it's cost effective. So we're doing a lot of that. And I've been, believe it or not, I've been playing myself with Google AI Studio and Google App Scripts just to help in terms of follow-ups, and chat's my best friend, it became my best friend in terms of BD and all that. And then on the product side, a lot of the things is around 2 or 3 areas, like documentation, like how do we really quickly make sure that we're all building the same thing. 2 is Cursor. We're really big users of Cursor for code. V0 from Vercel from a UI. And I even built in 6 hours 10 days ago, just wanted to build myself without the team. Like, hey, I'm just going to build this module for our product. And I did that. So, these are the kind of tools that we're leveraging in our stack to really, really accelerate.
And do you think that's the future of companies, just less employees, more of you managing AI agents?
I think so. I think, there's a big, there's been who is going to be the solo entrepreneur reaching 1 billion valuation, right? I think everybody's looking to see what happens. I don't know if it's going to be like this. I'm sure it can happen in certain industries, but I do believe that you can now definitely be more capital efficient by leveraging those agents. So I don't think it's going to be one person for, that we're going to see a lot of those, but you're going to see teams of maybe 5 to 10 people that can get to certain numbers way more efficiently because of that, right? So a bit of the Instagram story, if I'm correct, right?
Interesting. How's the product launch for you? Is that still an effective way to launch and get a bunch of clients?
Yeah, so we're actually relaunching this summer. We were like, hey, you know what? We want to rebuild something. So we rebuilt our startup side, and so that's going to be available in the next 2 weeks or this month. And then we've started our first pilot on the investor side, building that 2-sided relationship OS for them. So that's pretty exciting to do that. So, yeah.
And tell me a bit more about Vercel. I believe you have been accepted the Vercel Accelerator, right? Like, I've known a bunch of companies, very promising companies that have been accepted there. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, they had a new cohort. We applied. So we're one of 40 companies in the current cohort out of 900 companies. So that was very exciting. And we've been going through the program and great sessions and just great to be building alongside other our fellow cohorters, if I can say that. And then we have a big demo day on July 18th in San Francisco. So we're all heads down prepping for that.
Well, look out for Clay not Clay, Persona, which is a Clay competitor in your cohort. They've also been accepted as of late, and great company to skyrocket your sales. They do like AI outbound and AI agents for sales. So quite an amazing company. I want to ask you about the marketplace that you've launched as well. What's your business model and your thesis behind that one?
Yeah, so as part of the Boxsy for startups, one of the things that I kept getting asked by the founders I was helping was, hey, who do you work with for marketing, or who do you work with for finance? We need a bit of consult or project based. And so instead of people asking me, I wanted to put those amazing providers make them available to people. And so if you're on Boxsy for startups, we have an entire access to our expert marketplace, we call it Expert Connect. And we decided to open that up also directly from our website. So you just have to register and you can see the people that I've been working with for years that have been helping startups. So that's something we wanted to do more as a sub product or sub feature. Like if you're part of the family, like here is who you can find that we trust, right? We've pre-vetted, we've worked with them. We know they can help you. So that's what we've been doing. We've been onboarded about 40, 45 providers. We're not trying to turn into a Fiverr and Upwork. It's really, people we know and who they know. That's it. And we grow this way on the provider side.
And as a user of your own tool, how easy is it for you to raise? And when is your next round going to be?
Well, like everybody else, I think, it's fundraising's been challenging. The money's there, but less deals. So that's been interesting. Yeah, so, I'm using Boxsy on Boxsy, if that makes sense, which is great because then I can check my metrics on a daily basis, make sure I'm on track. I'm not running out of cash or anything like that. And then we've been, obviously using that in our updates and in some of the other things that we're doing in terms of raising, but it's as challenging. So we're raising our pre-seed right now, 500K. We kind of started. So, but big focus on traction for us to have the right story for that fundraise.
And how challenging has it been to run that company? How do you deal with the stress?
Oh, it's been, very challenging, like any other founder. I don't think I'm perfect in terms of dealing with the stress. I think we all have our highs and lows. I think the piece that I used to be pretty good at is taking breaks. And again, it's not like you're disappearing for 2 weeks, but like really trying to take a breather so you can get your mind to think about something else, or even, hey, come more refreshed. I have to admit, I haven't been as good in the last few weeks on this. But usually, that's really trying to make sure that one day a week you're disconnecting, and, self-care is very important. I think, again, people have to remind me it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? So that's been my focus, at least, to try to stay sane, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. What does a day in your life look like nowadays?
Well, I tried, I've been resetting this. I use the summers usually as a reset. Somehow it's been 2 years in a row. Summers are the reset time. So I've been really, waking up. I have to admit, I always look at the news first. I'm a big geopolitical buff. So I like doing that, which has nothing to do with the business. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, right? Do that, cup of coffee. I have 2 pups. So, I'll go for a walk, try to squeeze a workout in if I can, 30 minutes, and then get ready and get on the, emails, and first emails, get that out of the way, and then start my day. I have to admit, I'm a big lists person. I have lists everywhere and not electronic ones. So, put the intentions for the day in the sense of what do I want to accomplish today, and then go from there. And then after that, it's between meetings, talking with the team, getting stuff done, and getting my hands dirty, building the product too these days. So here we are.
And geopolitically, in what shape is the world nowadays? Is there like preoccupying wars or geopolitical events that are under your mind?
Well, I mean, my dad is or was from Eastern Europe, so I've been following, Ukraine, Russia. I think he's, in his urn, I'm gonna say, definitely moving around, and yeah, I can hear him in the back of my head, being like, "What the heck's going on? What did you expect?" I think the Middle East is still something that's not great. Hopefully, it's gonna get settled, but I mean, that we're due for something. It's usually every 100 years. We're getting there. So it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. But I think it's not all gloom and doom, right? I think it's just we're in that period of change. And so let's see what happens. I'm still on a wait and see situation right now. I'm not going to lie. So yeah.
It's interesting that you said like we're due for something, right? Like that's kind of scary. I don't think I don't think we're due for anything. I think like the geopolitical realm is changing. I think peace is the default right now, and there's still nations that are like very much backwards, right? Like they're still living in the prehistoric age of conquering territories and going at war. But like if we go at war, and we've seen it in Russia and Ukraine, it's less like humans getting slaughtered, right? It's like more remote control. It's more like cyber wars and cyber hacking. Me think I'm just more preoccupied of AI. Like AI scaling things. It can scale evil, and yeah, that's more preoccupying to me rather than wars. What do you think?
I think there's a counterpart to that. There's also a lot of opportunities for AI to do a lot of good when you start looking at healthcare and curing diseases and all that. So I think absolutely. I mean, it's like any tool out there, right? When you think about drones, any new tech that the military can potentially use, there's always like a really dark side and a really positive side. So, like I said, I'm still in wait and see. At the end of the day, I mean, there's not a lot of different, outcomes, right? It's or we get our head out of our asses and we do what's right for people, or we end up like not, and then it's just going to be, something will happen. So, again, I have a tendency to try to stay positive on those things. Could be a bit naive, but I think it's, let's hopefully there's higher powers out there, that will do the right thing for the people, and I'm talking more just across the countries and those governments and all that. But
Yeah, me, I'm pretty bullish on OpenAI and Anthropic and their AI ethics and safety. A lot of people would disagree with that, but they haven't been in Sam Altman's shoes, for example, trying to run a company and in a capitalistic world, trying to benefit the full humanity is a gigantic and very arduous task. What I'm more worried about is companies leveraging AIs, for example, like Anduril, right? Like it's bringing AI into bots, and they've sort of normalized the fact of like adding AI into bots, just like I normalized adding AI into my cold emails. A bunch of people would be like, "Yeah, cold emails is not okay. It's just spamming people and blah blah blah." But yet, like worst that'll happen is just I'll annoy someone. If I would add AI or even AGI to a bot, then I might kill millions, if not annihilate humanity, right? So I think the margin between like making cash and yeah war mongering in that specific field is quite preoccupying, and yeah, these are my concerns, right? And there's Elon building bots. We've seen his intentions with AI. It's not like clean. It's not to help humanity. So I'm more preoccupied about rather than like the open AI creating AGI that will annihilate the world. What do you think about that?
yeah, I mean, I think it's like every new technology. Unfortunately, it's going so fast. Governments are trailing behind, but I think it's they're all trying to put regulation, and I think it will happen despite people wanting to hear that or not. I think, and to what extent that I don't know, right? I'm not trying to guess on that, but I think if anything goes wrong, Charles, right, this is going to be globally felt, right? And so all of a sudden we'll have a lockdown on the tech somehow, right? I mean, so I do think that people should be careful, because if they don't apply it ethically, there will be a backlash. And so, I would think that, again, my naive / optimistic side, I'm going to start from that position. I'll go to the doom and gloom eventually if I see something. But, those guys or gals for that matter are thinking through that, knowing that, well, it's great. You're building a business, you're going to make millions. But if it backlashes, your business is in the toilet. I don't care what you think, but, we've seen that before.
Yeah, if they would just like cut off AI, it would be to me like cutting off Wi-Fi. It would be pretty bad for me not to have ChatGPT on my phone. It would be quite dramatic. Like me, I'm not doom and gloom. I just think depends how you see it, right? Like I just think that most of humans will stop working if given the choice between pure serotonin, like feeling pleasure, and feeling pain. They'll choose pleasure all the time. Most of us, right? Like I think entrepreneurs and CEOs are wired differently. They go for pain, but that's because there's economic gain, or that's what we're promised, right? So it will be like separation of two species, one which will have fun all the time, and one that's more like building and constructing. That is fun too, by the way. But yeah, I think that will happen. So if people see that as doom and gloom, that so be it. Elisabeth, where can yeah.
Just to rebound on that, I don't think it's doom and gloom, but to your point, like if all of a sudden we have a part of the population that only selects pleasure, which then therefore do not earn money a certain way, then what do we do, right? And that, I think that brings a bigger questions, right? Do you know what I mean? Than just so what do we do?
UBI.
Right. And so what do we do? Is that what's coming? I don't know. I don't have a crystal.
That's like the best solution, I think, that many of us has been talking about. But let's keep that one for another pod. Where can people find out more about you, Ili?
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn's the best way if you have any questions or you need any help. Or always happy to discuss and connect. So yeah, LinkedIn is the best way.
That was Elisabeth